Come on, man! Come on, man!
I don't even know what that means to say that this is a Southern channel. I have no idea what that means. It's a college football channel. They do actually play college football up north. It's just not as good as in the South, but they do play it up north.
Come on, man!
I think that Kim lady is a West Coast typer. No, I'm ready, lady. I'm waiting on people on West Coast time to get ready. You let me know. Hey, Kim, you're from Oregon. How many times have you shit on the sidewalk today? Week 10, son, let's go.
Who have Georgia played? Woo!
No, it's an Oregon thing, man. We all know y'all shit on the sidewalk out there. Cop a squat, dummy! It's Georgia, Florida Day. Don't fuck with me. College Game Day live from Happy Valley today. Penn State, Ohio State. Game's at noon. Get your name on the rigged wheel, dummies.
Come on, man!
All right, good morning, Annette. How's everybody doing? Happy Saturday. Welcome to week 10 of the 2024 college football season. And, man, we got some great games today. Great games today. Got some rivalry games. We got some top 10 matchups. We got some highly ranked teams that a lot of people are picking against because they're playing on the road. Talking to you, Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Two popular underdog picks this week. Arkansas at home over Ole Miss and South Carolina at home over Texas A&M. We'll talk about those. Oregon travels to the Big House. Dang. Oh, boy. Biggs Mike, you in here, buddy? It could be a rough one, my man. Could be a rough one for the X-Men today, for the Wolverines. Could be a rough one. There you are. What's up, Mike? At Georgia, Florida at 3:30. World's largest outdoor cocktail party, which, of course, is played in Jacksonville for no reason at all. Don't get me started on that, or else the whole show will just be me complaining again about neutral site games, which are completely ridiculous and pointless. What else we got today? Texas is on a bye. Is that right? Texas is on a bye. Alabama's on a bye. LSU on a bye. Tennessee and Kentucky play tonight. Tennessee has owned Kentucky all time, but specifically, I mean, even the last 15 years, all those years where Tennessee was in the toilet circling the drain and they, would win one SEC game, it was always against Kentucky. Even in the bad years, Tennessee found a way to beat Kentucky most times. Shout out 2017, though, for the Kentucky man. Hashtag 0-8 for Tennessee that year. But Tennessee has owned them. We're going to talk about it all today. We, of course, have the rigged wheel coming up at the end of the show. If you want to get your name on the wheel, any Cash App, any PayPal, get your name on the rigged wheel. We'll give some money away or attempt to give some money away here at the end of the show. Yeah, any PayPal, any Cash App. The links are in the description. Get your name up on the rigged wheel. We have a great guest picker coming on today, Mark Rogers. That's right. So I need y'all to behave today. Mark Rogers is a professional. He's not like me. Okay? I'm an idiot. I barely know what I'm doing. I just yell and scream and whatever and overreact all the time and that. But Mark Rogers is an actual professional. So when he comes on here at 10 o'clock this morning, we need to all be on our best behavior. Okay? I'm serious. He's a professional and deserves to be treated as such. Okay? So let's keep that in mind. Celebrity guest picker, Mark Rogers. Yeah. All right, how's everybody doing for real? We do have a great day of football coming up. As usual, we'll go through the entire slate of games, starting with the early games, going all the way up through the late 10 and 10:30 games. We'll figure out what we need to watch, what time we need to watch it, and what channel we need to watch it on. We'll figure all that out. We'll talk about some best bets. Of course, we got to figure out a way to try to make some money today while we're watching these college football games. So we'll try to pick some winners today. We'll take a look at prize picks. I made a video yesterday asking y'all to help me out with my prize picks for this week. And not too many of you were interested in trying to help me out. There was a handful of comments telling me which sizes to play, which players to take for the more or the less. But we'll have to pull it back up again this morning and see if y'all can help me pick a winner over on PrizePicks. Shout out to PrizePicks, by the way. They are sponsoring the kickoff show today. Head on over to PrizePicks.com. It couldn't be any easier. Just pick a player, pick more or less on their stat line. It's literally that simple. PrizePicks.com. When you get signed up, make sure you enter in the promo code Uncle Lou. One word, no spaces, all uppercase letters, Uncle Lou, and they're going to set you up with an amazing bonus. Make any $5 play over on prizepicks.com, and whether you win or lose, they're going to give you $50. It's that easy. It's that easy. Head on over to prizepicks.com, click sign up, enter your email address and the promo code Uncle Lou, and get to making some prize picks over there. I asked y'all to help me with the Cam Ward in that, but I don't know. What are y'all thinking? Miami hosts Duke today. 349. That's a lot. Over 350? I don't know about that. I'd go over 274.5 for our buddy Cam Ward. Over 2.5 passing touchdowns. You know what? I might take that too. Anyway, we'll come back to prize picks later on and try to find a winning combination over there on prize picks. Prize picks is great for me. I live in Georgia, so I can't bet the games on FanDuel or DraftKings or anything like that because Georgia's so backwards. They don't know what they're doing down here in a lot of different ways. But you can use prizepicks.com in Georgia. So they have saved the day for Uncle Lou. So if you live in Georgia and you can't use any of those other ones, check out prizepicks.com. You'll be glad you did. All right. Let's take roll and see what the hell is going on in here. Like I said, if you want to misbehave, do it now. You've got about 45 minutes. At 10 o'clock, Mark Rogers is coming on. He's a professional, and we need to act accordingly once he comes on. So any bullshit or whatever that you need to get out of your system or type or however that goes and that and this and the other, get it out now. Yeah, get it out now. College Game Day live in Happy Valley today for the Penn State-Ohio State game, which comes on at noon. I'll be live at noon right here on the channel here. We'll hang out and watch all the noon games. So if y'all are going to be watching the Penn State-Ohio State game today, which I'm pretty sure that y'all are, come hang out with us here on LouTube. We have a really good time watching the game. So we'll hang out and watch all the noon games. At 3:30, we'll be over on Patreon. So all of you that are members over on the Patreon page, you know how that works. As soon as the noon games end around 3 or 3:15, I'll post a link over on the Patreon page, and we'll hang out and watch all the 3:30 games. That's what y'all voted for this week over on the Patreon page was the 3:30 games. So we'll hang out and watch all the 3:30 games on Patreon. If you're not on Patreon, I can't imagine the amount of things that must be wrong with you. But there is a link to the Patreon page in the description of the video. If you want to check out the Patreon page, we have a good time over there year-round on the Patreon page. Even when football season ends, we're going to keep the live streams going over on Patreon for those of you who are interested in or like to gamble on college basketball, the NBA, whatever else it is that's going on, the NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl, all that stuff over on the Patreon page. Make sure you check it out. like I mentioned before. You'll be glad you did. All right, let's see who's here. Sports Talk 101, what's up, buddy? Good morning to you. Terry Simpson, Will Eubanks, Zeus, Jarvis, Huffer Billy, Paws up early this morning. Eddie Polito, Pastor Dave, what's up, buddy? Wotod 99, thank you for the super chat. We'll get to those in just a second here. John Parham, what's up, buddy? Hello, ladies is here. Is that the old Val Venus guy from the wrestling in that? Hello, ladies. I bet that got that Kim lady all excited when I said that. You still in here, lady? Where's that Kim lady that was in here earlier? She might have taken a break to go shit on the sidewalk, but she was in here earlier. Hello, Kim lady from Oregon. Joseph Sandberg, Matt Dummett. Rockabelly 864. Wait a minute. That's Carolina Jackpot. I'm pretty sure. Zeus Almighty. Georgia Man. B.A. Good morning in that. Yeah. B.A. also a lady, like our buddy Kim. But B.A., and I know this for a fact, does not shit on the sidewalk. No. Does not shit on the sidewalk. Paul Garner, what's up, buddy? Wyatt Fielden, Smoking Dog, Airy Maida, Go Frogs, a TCU, isn't that? The Horny Toads and 2. General Ripper, Marlon Mealer, college football guy, Biggs Mike. Biggs Mike, we got to make some money today, buddy. I'm up about 175 for the week, betting on baseball and not baseball, baseball ended. Betting on the NBA, and I got kind of lucky last night. I thought FAU was going to beat South Florida last night, and I was going to take FAU on the money line for the game, but I didn't. But guess what I did do? I took FAU first half. Yeah, they were the home team. I took FAU first half money line. They're an underdog. I took FAU first half money line. Winner. Now, South Florida ended up blowing them out in the second half, but it didn't matter to me. Uncle Lou's bet cashed out at halftime. Dummies. Paid Lou last night. I also had the New York Knicks team total over 112, and they flew past that. So I was 2-0 last night on the Pay Lou movement. Puts us up 175 for the week, and I'm sure I'll give all that back today. I'll give all that back today, plus some, I'm sure, trying to win money on these college football games. I really need y'all's help. I really need y'all's help with these college football games. Saturdays keep beating me down. Of course, that's what happens when you've never seen a college football game like me. If you don't believe me, just peruse my comment section. It's full of people telling me I've never seen a game. Yeah. I had a Tennessee fan show up in my comment section yesterday laughing at me because I picked Alabama to beat Tennessee like 3 weeks ago or whenever that game was. I had to remind him that he picked Tennessee to beat Arkansas. And he was wrong. So his whole point was I didn't know anything at all about football because I picked Alabama to beat Tennessee, and it didn't happen. I love people like that, though. If you don't, I pick 30 games a week. If I don't get them all right, then I don't know anything about football, and I've never seen a game. I had to remind a guy, Tennessee man, I had to remind him, hey, dummy, you picked Tennessee to beat Arkansas. How dumb are you? I guess that guy's never seen a game. Viva Las Vegas. Las Vegas trip coming up into January. No one cares about that, though. Mike Nixon, thank you for the super chat this morning. He says, good morning, Lou. Here's the medical update on Dew Aller. He will play today. I heard that yesterday. That's good news for people who are on Penn State. He says, I'm so hyped for the game today. I'm smoking wings. They're almost done. Shout out to smoking wings. I'm not smoking wings today, but I am going to pick them up from somewhere. And by me, I mean the lady. We're doing chicken wings today. From my absolute favorite chicken wing place on planet Earth. It's a place here in town called A-Town Wings. I don't know if they have that anywhere else or not. I've got no idea. A-Town Wings is the name of it. But yeah, we're doing chicken wings today too. Thank you, Mike, for hitting the super chat to help support the show this morning, buddy. Wotod99 says Bama on bye equals stress-free college football. Yeah, that's right. Especially for Bama's got 2 losses, so every game they play now is stress and anxiety because they're 1 loss away from being eliminated from everything. SEC championship hopes, playoff hopes, everything, because a 9-3 Bama ain't getting in. So all these teams that are sitting on 2 losses today, those teams are basically playing playoff games today. Every single team in the country with 2 losses. Some teams with 1 loss are playing playoff games, but everybody with 2 losses. Any loss, if you're sitting on 2 losses, any third loss is almost certainly an elimination loss. Trucking with Jeter, thank you for the super chat, buddy. That's very generous of you. He says, fuck you, fuck the dogs, let's go Gators. Just kidding, love you, Lou. Let's hope for a nail biter. It's been a while since we've seen one of those. In the Georgia-Florida game, the last 3 years, Georgia has won by an average of about 23 or 24 points. They're a big favorite today. They're not that big of a favorite. They're favored from around 14 to 16, depending on where you look. I think last night when I looked, it was down to about 14.5 or 15. Of course, we'll check all the latest odds and lines here coming up in a second. But, it's been a while since that one's been close. Bean Supreme says, hey, Lou, hope you're having a great Saturday. I'm going to the game today. Hope we can keep it close. Have a good morning and go Gators. Yeah, have a good time. It's been a while since I've been down there to that one. I think it's 2014 or 2015. I think it was 2014 the last time I went to the Georgia-Florida game. Down there in Freakville, Las Vegas. All right, speaking of the games, let's take a look at them today and see what the hell's going on. There's the South Florida game, like I mentioned last night. Boise State won again last night. Albert Gent Smith had 149 yards rushing. So if anybody took Gent Smith on their prize picks, I hope you took the under, because I think the number was close to 160 and up over on prize picks for Albert Gentworth. 149 rushing for him. Boise State rolls 56-24 over San Diego State. All right, coming up today, the big one at noon, biggest game of the day, top 5 matchup. Ohio State sitting on the 1 loss that they took earlier on the road at Oregon. Was that a 1-point loss, 1 or 2-point loss? They're on the road today at Penn State, and Ohio State is about a 3-point favorite. And like someone mentioned a few minutes ago, and was, I guess, announced last night, Dew Aller is going to attempt to play. Hopefully he can play. You see one of these big games, you want to see everybody's best players available and on the field, so we'll see. Penn State, of course, unable to get over the hump against both Ohio State and Michigan pretty much every year since they joined the Big Ten. They have beat them on occasion. Penn State has not won the Big Ten, though, since way back in 2016. I hope this will be a good game. I feel like Penn State has been playing good enough to beat Ohio State this year, and Ohio State has just looked off a little. Their offensive line is giving them problems. They struggle to run the ball, which is hard to believe considering those 2 running backs that they have. Now, they've got great wide receivers. We all know that. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate, that whole wide receiver room is ridiculous. And defensively, I feel like they've played pretty well this year for the most part. But Penn State's got a really good defense, too. And if they can get after Will Howard this week like Nebraska did last week and limit the run game, I think Penn State's got a chance to pull it off. We'll see. That one's 12 o'clock on Fox. I'll be live right here on YouTube. We'll hang out and watch all these noon games headlined by Ohio State at Penn State. Duke on the road against number 5, Miami. Miami trying to remain undefeated today. They're a 21-point favorite at home over the Dukies. Duke almost beat SMU last week. SMU's a pretty good team, but that game was a little strange if you watched it. Now, Duke should have won the game. That's true. They had opportunities, missed field goals. In overtime, they decided to go for the win when they didn't need to. They could have kicked an extra point and tied it and continued overtime. Instead, they go for 2. They don't get it. Game over. SMU wins, and you're thinking, wow, Duke almost beat them. And they did. SMU had 6 turnovers in that game. 6. And I think Duke scored 0 points off of those turnovers. It was just a weird game all the way around. So I'm not saying that to shit on Duke, but you would think at home, if you force 6 turnovers, you're going to win the game. And Duke didn't do it. So I don't think Duke's a great team. I don't know that I would bet Miami minus 21. Their defense tends to give up a lot of yards and points. Miami's defense does. But I don't I don't look at last week's Duke SMU game and go, uh-oh, Miami better watch out. It feels like Miami's going to win this game easily. Now, they're coming off of a rivalry game last week, Miami is, so now they got to play at noon in front of 9 people because nobody goes to Miami games, especially at noon. All of their fans live on the internet, and very few of them live within driving distance of the Dolphins Stadium, which, of course, is where Miami plays. So there'll be 9 people there when this game kicks off. Could be a little sketchy in the first half for the Canes, but it feels like they're going to pull away and win this thing comfortably. But I doubt I will be betting Miami minus 21. It just seems like a lot. This is the Manny versus Mario Bowl. Of course, Manny Diaz, now the head coach at Duke, used to be the head coach at Miami. They fired him specifically to bring in Mario Cristobal. Manny Diaz went to Penn State as defensive coordinator for a couple of years. Now he's got the head job at Duke, so you got that whole angle there. Duke on the road at Miami, noon on ABC. We'll be watching that one along with Ohio State and Penn State at noon right here on the channel. We'll hang out and watch the noon games. Ole Miss at Arkansas. This is one of the upset alert games that a lot of people have talked about this week, myself included. Arkansas's got a pretty good offense. They can put up a lot of points and a lot of yards. They're at home. Ole Miss has been a little up and down this year, scoring 60, 70 points a game in the first month of the season. But since conference play started, Ole Miss has really struggled. Ole Miss and Tennessee, to me, have had a lot in common in terms of how their seasons have gone. Now, I think Tennessee's a better team than Ole Miss, so I'm not comparing them in that way. But if you remember back in September, we talked a lot around here about these fan bases that were bragging because their teams were beating elementary schools 70-0. We were talking about Ole Miss and Tennessee. Conference play has started, and I don't think Tennessee scored more than 24 points against an SEC team all year, something like that. And it's been a similar thing with Ole Miss. They've sort of stalled a little offensively compared to what we saw in the first month of the season. Now, I do think Ole Miss is a better team than Arkansas, but this is a dangerous spot here on the road. Sam Pittman done a good job with what he's got to work with there this year at Arkansas. Of course, Bobby Petrino in as offensive coordinator this season. They have Ole Miss as a 7-point favorite. I like Arkansas plus 7, and I'm not convinced that Arkansas can't just win this game outright. Air Force on the road at Army. I feel bad for Air Force. No one cares about Air Force the way that they do Army and Navy. And it's not just because Army and Navy are good this year. Every year, the big game at the end of the year, Army, Navy, everyone talks about it all the time. Air Force just seems like to get left out. I don't know why that is, but Army should win this game easily today. Air Force, of course, not on the level of Army. Army, a pretty good team. We're all waiting on the Army Notre Dame game now. We know what it is with Army. We're waiting on that Notre Dame game. They're a 22-point favorite. Army is. Minnesota on the road at Illinois. Illinois trying to rebound after just getting bludgeoned to death last week by Oregon. That game was just never competitive. Oregon ends up winning that game. What was the score of that game? 32-9 or just something weird like that. Anyway, Oregon handled them no problem, gave Illinois their second loss. They're at home this week hosting a pretty bad Minnesota team. But for some reason, Minnesota's favored by 3. That sounds like a trap to me. Maine at Oklahoma. Oklahoma probably finds a way to win that one. They're absolutely terrible. They might be the worst team in the SEC, Oklahoma. But I have a feeling at home, they'll probably take care of Maine. Maybe.
Come on, man.
Northwestern at Purdue. Okay, that's a nap game there. Stanford at NC State, same thing. Virginia Tech at Syracuse. Virginia Tech, a 3.5-point road favorite. I would consider Syracuse in that one. Syracuse, another team that lost last week, but in a weird way. They lost to Pitt during the week last week, but if you remember, their quarterback, Honda McCord, did he have 2 or 3 pick sixes in the first half? It was just really strange. Syracuse isn't nearly as bad as they looked last week if you just looked at the score. Similar to the Duke SMU thing, it was a weird turnover situation there. I kind of like Syracuse in that one. Vanderbilt at Auburn. We're up to 12:45. Now, this is another game that you look at the line and you go, huh? Auburn's been horrific this year, particularly on offense, just a turnover machine, especially earlier in the season. Quarterback hokey pokey there. It seems like they're just flipping a coin, not just every game, but almost every series in terms of who's going to play quarterback next at Auburn. Vandy has been a surprise this year. I don't know how else to say it. They, of course, got the win over Bama, came close against Texas last week. And Auburn's favored by 7.5 at home. It seems weird. Everybody and their brother is on Vanderbilt this week, which means I got to take Auburn. I don't know what's going on there. Yes, that line is weird, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm probably going to go with Auburn there just because that line is so weird. Moving into the 3:30 games, we'll be over on Patreon for all the 3:30 games. Oregon on the road at Michigan. Michigan, a disappointing season, of course, after going undefeated and winning the national title last year. Sharon Moore appears to be in over his head. Why they didn't go out and get a quarterback out of the portal in the offseason is a question I'll go to my grave not having an answer for. Sharon Moore has been there for years, which means he knew all those quarterbacks were terrible. Yet he did absolutely nothing in the offseason to address it. The only other alternative is he's been watching those quarterbacks for years and thought they were good, which is worse. That would be even worse. Imagine watching fucking Warren and Alex Orgy for a couple of years in practice and going, that'll work. So I don't know which is worse. If he thought they would be good or if he knew they were terrible but just didn't do anything about it. I don't know, but Michigan's been a massive disappointment. Luckily for the Michigan man, they did beat Michigan State last week. That's really going to be their only saving grace this year. They're not winning this game at home. This is the largest underdog, I believe, Michigan has ever been at home. Is that right? Did I hear that right this week? Unbelievable. Oregon should roll. Florida on the road at Georgia. Georgia favored by 14.5, 15, depending on where you look. The cocktail party, Georgia has dominated this series since Kirby Smart was hired back in 2016. Florida's only beat them twice. Florida beat Kirby in his first year in 2016, and then he beat him in the COVID year when no one was watching. Florida did. So Kirby is, 6-2, 7, whatever it is. The game hasn't been close the last 2 or 3 years. Florida, DJ Lagway starting at quarterback. We'll see. Florida can run the ball. But they can't stop the run. So there's been a lot of people questioning Georgia's running game so far this year and why they can't run the ball. I'm not convinced they can't run the ball. I'm convinced they don't run the ball. This is the highest. Georgia's pass to run percentage this year is it's a little bit over 60% pass, I believe. It's close to 60%. I think it's a little over 60% pass, basically 60% pass, 40% run. I believe that's the most lopsided towards passing a Georgia offense has ever been at this point in the season. So for whatever reason, decisions have been made at Georgia to throw the ball a lot more this year than they ever have before. Now, you can make the argument it hasn't really worked out considering Carson Beck's a turnover machine. He's got more interceptions already right now than he had all of last year. And if you add in his fumbles and his pointless safeties, he's got way more turnovers than he had last year. He had 3 interceptions and a fumble against Bama, plus he took a pointless safety, which that's really another turnover, and Georgia lost. Against Texas, Georgia somehow managed to win the game, but he had 3 interceptions in that game. If he throws 3 or 4 interceptions today, Florida could win the game. I mean, anytime you turn the ball over 3 or 4 times, you're in danger of losing. He's got to get it cleaned up. There's been a couple of examples over the last 10 years or so of Georgia quarterbacks kind of struggling going into the Florida game and then having a breakout game in the Florida game. Jake Fromm, a couple of times actually, when he was quarterback, had his best game of the year coming out of the bye week and playing Florida. You need to see something like that from Carson Beck. I mean, Georgia's getting ready to head into a pretty difficult part of the schedule. They got Florida this week, on the road at Ole Miss next week, and then Tennessee at home the week after that. Georgia's only sitting on 1 loss. But if they want to get to the SEC championship game, they got to win out. Because once they catch a second loss, they're not likely to get in because they would be behind Alabama in tiebreaker scenarios with 2 loss teams, and of course would be behind any 1 loss or no loss teams, of which there are a couple left still. Tennessee, one SEC loss. LSU, one SEC loss. Texas A&M, 0 SEC losses. So important 3-game stretch here for Georgia, and they're going to need Carson Beck to play better than he's played so far this year. Texas Tech on the road at Iowa State. Iowa State's undefeated, and not a word spoken about him anywhere on the internet. Unbelievable. Zero respect for Iowa State. Unfortunately for Texas Tech, they got to play on the road there, and of course, no one's ever won a game there. Is what I was told back in like 2016 or 2017 by that guy by that Oklahoma fan that used to have a successful YouTube channel. Indiana on the road at Michigan State. Indiana an 8-point favorite. They're also undefeated, but I feel like more people talk about Indiana than Iowa State. Y'all feel that way too? I don't know that anybody's picking Indiana to win a national title, but I feel like Indiana does get talked about more than Iowa State, at least. Literally nobody talks about it. I'm guilty of it. I don't talk about them either. But Indiana's undefeated too on the road at Michigan State. They're an 8-point favorite there. Still with the 3:30 games. Kansas State, which of course is your future Big 12 champion this year, according to yours truly, Uncle Lou, is on the road at Houston today, and they're favored by 13. Houston down bad per normal. UCLA on the road at Nebraska. Nebraska's a 7-point favorite. There was people in here earlier this week picking UCLA on the outright win there. And look how low this over-under is, 38.5. I'd probably take the under. I do like Nebraska's defense. The thing you got to worry about with Nebraska is they were this close. I mean, this close to beating Ohio State last week, right? How do they respond to that this week? Are they still moping around and pouting because they let one get away against Ohio State last week? Well, we'll see. North Carolina at Florida State. Florida State permanently stuck on one win. Can they get their second win today? They're a 2.5-point underdog at home to a bad North Carolina team. Mac Brown most likely on the way out at North Carolina as head coach. At least I think he should be. I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole. These are two really bad teams here. Arizona State on the road at Oklahoma State. Arizona State's a 4-point favorite. Arizona State's another team that's better this year than most people thought they would be. Oklahoma State, of course, extremely disappointing this year. Arizona at Central Florida. Central Florida, a 6-point home favorite. Why does Central Florida keep getting... I don't understand. They want Goose Malzoon fired down there. They're bad. And Arizona's not great, but 6 points? I don't know. I like Arizona there. Shout out to my buddy Zona Tucson in the comment section. I don't know if he's in here today, but seems like... I don't remember the last time Central Florida won a game. Blown out by Colorado. They lost to Iowa State. They lost to whoever they play, they lose. I don't know. Weird. I kind of like Arizona there. Moving into the late afternoon games. Nothing really. Mississippi State against UMass. On to the primetime games. 7:30. Texas A&M on the road at South Carolina. Another upset special here, according to literally everybody on the internet. Texas A&M coming off a huge win last week against LSU. They put Reed in at quarterback in the second half, and they score a bunch of points, and everybody goes nuts talking about Reed is an amazing quarterback. This is unbelievable. Look at this guy. Should have been starting the whole time. I'm not saying he's bad, but the guy completed 2 fucking passes last week. I'm having a hard time understanding the just everybody drooling all over themselves about this Reed guy. He completed 2 passes for 70 yards. You know what? So he completed a bomb and a nothing pass. That's it. He played the whole second half. He completed two passes. Again, I'm not saying he's bad, but it's hard for somebody to convince me that Texas A&M has turned some kind of corner or figured something out because they beat LSU at home while a quarterback completed 2 passes. I don't know. I guess he's going to get the start today over Connor Wegman. We'll see. But South Carolina is a good team. Now, their record won't indicate that. But, you know, they probably should have beat LSU. I mean, they did beat LSU. Let's just call it like it is. They beat LSU, and the referees took it away. They almost beat Alabama on the road. They blew out Oklahoma. They do have a loss to Ole Miss. But their front four, South Carolina, is really good. This will be the best front four Texas A&M's played this year. So this Reed guy, we'll see if he plays today, how he does. But South Carolina at night Williams-Brice Stadium, those fans will be insane. This is a tough spot here for Texas A&M. A lot of people are picking South Carolina in that one. Louisville on the road at Clemson. Clemson's favored by 10. I like Clemson here. Now, there will probably be a lot of points scored in this game. Clemson's defense, not what we're used to seeing, at least in terms of the number of points they've been giving up to people. Now, a lot of the points that they've given up, it's true, have come in the second half of blowouts, where maybe Clemson's rotating some guys in or out or whatever the case, but still, they have given up a lot of points, and Louisville can score. Clemson's a 10-point home favorite. I think Clemson probably covers that 10 points. I think Clemson's a really good team right now. Wisconsin on the road at Iowa. Iowa's favored by 2.5. I like Iowa in that one. What else do we got? Southern Cal at Washington. Southern Cal favored by 2.5. I'm done with Lincoln Riley. I don't even care about that game. Not going to watch it. Kentucky on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 17.5. This line has gone up, 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 and away. This thing started around 14 or 15. It's all the way up to 17.5. Just a little bit of truth in advertising here. I have already placed a bet on that game, and I have Tennessee at -17. I've got Tennessee at -17, so I've already placed a bet on that game. Yeah. In fact, I've placed a bet on several games here. I'll show you again. Tennessee -17, South Carolina +3. This parlay, yes, I know parlays are dumb, and I tell you all that all the time. Yesterday on the morning show, so you know the rigged wheel we do at the end of this show, where we give away, we try to give away money, whatever, get your name on the wheel, all that. Yesterday on the morning show, I picked like 7 or 8 games that I liked, 9 or 10 games that I liked, something like that. And then we spun the wheel 3 times, and whatever the wheel landed on, we did a 3-team parlay with whatever the wheel picked. So these aren't my picks. These are the wheel's picks. So we'll see if the wheel can outpick Lou, which probably can. Probably can, honestly. Probably won't have any problem at all outpicking Lou, now that I think about it. It's not that hard to do, it would appear. All right, let's get back to the schedule here. I feel like we need to. Where were we at? Oh, yeah, Kentucky on the road at Tennessee. So can Tennessee's offense get going today against Kentucky? Kentucky's been spiraling. I mean, circling the drain. Blown out by Florida. They just can't win a game. They lose to Auburn last week or whatever. Kentucky, man, has, some teams get better as the season goes along for whatever reason. Some teams get worse as the season goes along for whatever reason. Kentucky has gotten noticeably worse. I heard they're benching their quarterback today, my buddy, Brock Vandergrift. Can anybody confirm that? Dang. What happened, Brock? That's alarming if true. But that's what I heard. Tennessee's got a really good defense. We talked about South Carolina's front four. Tennessee's got probably the best defense they've had since 2016. This year they had a really good defense in 2016. I like Tennessee big there at home. Plus, they're doing every gimmick known to man. They're doing the alternate uniforms. They're doing spooky Rocky Top. They're doing dark mode. They're going to play that fucked up version of Rocky Top. They're doing it all. I think you got to check your ticket to see what color shirt you got to wear. The whole fucking they just combined every gimmick into one for this game. Gimmick program with a gimmick offense and a gimmick head coach, Tennessee, but they should get a big win today against Kentucky. Pitt on the road at SMU. This is a huge game, too. This game is just as big as the Ohio State-Penn State game. It's not getting the attention because obviously Ohio State and Penn State are just bigger brands. They're ranked higher. They're in the top 5, whereas these two teams are in the top 20, but the records are the same here. You look at the Ohio State-Penn State game, you got a one-loss team versus an undefeated team. Same thing here with Pitt and SMU in the ACC. Pitt is undefeated. I don't know how I told you that, and you might not have known that, but it's true. Pitt's undefeated. SMU only has 1 loss, and that 1 loss is to BYU, who's also undefeated. And they only lost by, I believe, 3 to BYU. SMU did. SMU's at home. They're a 7-point favorite. I like SMU to win. I don't know about laying 7. But I like SMU to win the game. TCU at Baylor and Colorado State at Nevada. So that's the rundown of games today, and some of my pointless thoughts on those games. Those are my pointless thoughts on the games and that. Dogman in Oklahoma says, fun fact, Florida fan tried to blow up the Georgia team bus, burned his lips on the tailpipe. Dang. Always knew they were special. Yeah. Dave Valinsky, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, good morning, Lou. I hope we beat Illinois today. Ski you ma, RTB, and go Gophers. Ski you. Yeah, I guess the skiing is pretty good in Minnesota. I don't know. Are there any mountains there? I think there you have to do the cross-country skiing, and I'm not doing that. If I do anything like that, it's going to be downhill, my man. I ain't got no interest in that uphill skiing shit or fucking flatland skiing. But, yeah, ski to motto and rode a boat, too. For your sake, I hope Minnesota wins, but my pick is Illinois, which actually is good for you that I'm picking Illinois. So, yeah. Number of games till Napier is fired, over under 2. I'll say over 2. In other words, I don't think he's getting fired. I don't think Florida will fire Billy Napier after the Georgia game because they don't want to give Georgia the satisfaction of being able to say, Georgia got your coach fired. So for that reason, I'm going over 2. So I think they play Georgia this week and lose. And then who do they play next week? Texas or whoever it is. They'll lose that one or whoever it is. Texas, LSU, whoever it is. They'll lose them both. And if they fire the coach, it will be after the second game. So I'll say over 2. I don't think there's any chance Florida as a university would give Georgia the satisfaction of being able to say, we got your coach fired. Now, I think he probably should have been fired after the last game, and then an interim coach could have had 2 weeks, with the team heading into the Georgia game. But they didn't do that, so we'll see. We'll see. All right. Let's talk about what we're eating. Let's talk about what we're eating, which, of course, is extremely important. We got Mark Rogers coming on at 10 to help us pick some games. You know who else helps me pick games? I've told you about these people before. Some of y'all have listened. Some of you haven't. And it's pretty obvious by reading your picks in the comments every week if you haven't. But if you're on Twitter, go check out PB_betting on Twitter. They've been watching the show for a while, and they have a betting podcast that they do once a week. Now, everything they do gets posted to Twitter, so you can find it from Twitter, PB_betting. They post their podcast to YouTube and all the podcast places. They even post it live on Twitter. So they're all over the place, but Twitter's the best way to find them. And you can see here, they're transparent. This is what there's 2 things I like about these people in terms of their betting podcast that I think everybody should do. Number 1, they're upfront about what their record is. You see right down here, they update it every week. They're 121, 118, and 6 on their picks. Their locks are 10 and 8. So they tell you. They're not on here to tell you that they know everything and we get 100% of the picks right. And then when they lose, they don't admit it. They're open and honest and upfront about it. So I never suggest listening to what somebody says and then just betting the same way they do blindly. But it is a good idea to listen to different people's thoughts on betting these games one way or the other. It helps you to make a more informed decision. So check them out, PB_betting. Oh, the second thing I like is they don't sell picks. Don't sell picks, whatever you do. Well, you can sell picks if you want. Don't buy picks. If you're paying for picks, I don't understand that. I don't know why anybody on the planet would pay somebody to make a guess for them. Because I've told y'all this before. I love gambling, and I love betting on college football. It's a fucking coin flip. Nobody has some kind of better chance of being right than you do. It's a 50-50 coin flip. literally. If you're paying for picks, you got problems. And your mental capacity is at the top of that list of problems. Don't pay for picks. It's ridiculous. And these people give them away for free. So they do it right. PB_betting. Go check them out. All right. What are we eating today? For lunch, I'm eating a tuna sub. All right. Now, some of y'all, whatever, you like it, you don't, that's fine. You don't have to eat it. I'm eating it. I'm eating a tuna sub. On the sub is lettuce, onions, pickles, jalapenos, salt and pepper. That's it. All right. Now, if some of y'all eat tuna subs and you put some other stuff on there, that's okay. So maybe some of you put tomatoes on there. Maybe some of you put banana peppers on there. Whatever. That's fine. But listen to me. And I'm only going to say this one time, and then we're going to move on. Let me turn the camera back on so you can see how serious I am about this. Because I am extremely serious about what I'm about to tell you about tuna subs right now. There are two things that are non-negotiable when it comes to a tuna fish sub or sandwich or whatever. Number one, it has to be toasted. Now, you want to make some kind of, ham and turkey sub or something like that, and you don't want to toast it for whatever reason, that's fine. Okay? That's fine. But if you eat a tuna sub or a tuna sandwich, you have to toast it. It's got to, I'm serious. That's number one. Non-negotiable. Number two, and this is even worse if you do this. This is even worse if you do this. Every time I go somewhere and I order a tuna sub, the first thing these dumbasses ask me is, do you want cheese on it? No. No. Who the fuck is putting cheese on their tuna sandwich? No, that is disgusting. Stop. You want cheese? Get a meat sub. Get a meat, get ham and turkey or fucking whatever the fuck. I don't know why. Anyway, like I said, I'm only going to say it once. It has to be toasted, and if you put cheese on there, you're a sociopath and a serial killer for whatever reason. All right. What's the lock of the week? What's the lock of the week? If you had $10 in your pocket and that's it, and you had to bet it all on one college football game today, what's the lock of the week? What's the best bet on the board today? What do y'all think? Best bet on the board. You're down to your last $10 and you have to bet it on one game today. Oregon minus 10. Yeah, Oregon minus 10 would be great, especially since they're like a 15-point favorite. So you can't bet Oregon minus 10. That's a great idea, but they're a 15-point underdog. So, I mean a bet you can actually make, not one you can just make up off the top of your head. Arkansas plus 7. A lot of people on Arkansas. Tennessee minus 17. I like that one too. South Carolina plus 3. North Carolina minus 2.5. Vandy plus 7.5. Oregon plus 10. What? Jesus Christ. You don't need to be gambling, Georgia man. You don't need to be gambling. Pitt money line. That would be a big winner. Lock for me is Vandy to win. You don't even want the points, huh? Old Dominion. I don't know nothing about that. Vandy plus 7.5. South Carolina on the money line. South Carolina plus 3. For a lock of the week, I wouldn't take an underdog on the money line. If I'm going to do a lock of the week, I'm taking the points. You let the wheel make your picks this morning? Hey, it can't be any better or worse than actually trying to sit down and make an informed decision. It can't. I'm riding Indiana till they don't cover. Yeah, I've been doing that every week with Indiana. Gamecocks plus the points, says Kim. Clemson minus 10. I like that one too. Yeah, I like that one too. I like South Carolina plus the points. I like Clemson minus the points. I like Arkansas plus the points. I like Tennessee minus the points. Penn State is 1-22 against top 5 teams. Give me Ohio State money line, says Jake. Clemson first half minus 6.5. All right, it's almost 10 o'clock. Let me set up this StreamYard links for Mark Rogers. We got Mark Rogers coming on. Mark Rogers will give us the lock of the week. He knows what he's doing, unlike me. I'm just a loudmouth with a megaphone. Literally. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a yell and scream and react guy with a literal megaphone. Whoa, shit! That gets me every time. But Mark Rogers actually knows what he's doing. So let me post the StreamYard link in the... it's at the very bottom of the description of the video. Mark Rogers, if you're watching, and I'm pretty sure that you are. It's in the bottom of the description. So we'll bring Mark Rogers on. He's way smarter than I am. He's a professional, and he knows what he's doing. Celebrity guest picker, in that. So yeah, tuna sub for lunch, and then we're doing chicken wings this afternoon from my favorite chicken wing place, A-Town Wings. I think A-Town Wings is a chain place, but I'm not 100% sure. There's a bunch of them here. There's 4 or 5 of them in the Augusta area. So I think it's a chain, although I've never looked for or seen them anywhere else. I'm sure they have them, I guess. But it's my favorite chicken wing place, and I do a lemon pepper dry rub wing tossed in buffalo sauce. So it's a lemon pepper buffalo sauce combined. It's a dry lemon pepper rub tossed in wet buffalo sauce. And God, they're so good. They are so. Try it if you haven't. It's the best chicken wing you'll ever eat. It's really good. It's really good. Dry lemon pepper rub tossed in buffalo sauce. Holy moly. Would you look at this? Would you look at this? Mark Rogers live on LouTube. This is like maybe the second time this has happened. I'm pretty sure he came on.
I don't remember the first.
It was a long time ago. I believe you were still at the mothership back then, I believe. So it was definitely a while ago. So before we get started on the picks, Mark, I've got a link for your link posted in the description of the video. Mark Rogers has written a book. So I told you he was way smarter than me. I'm definitely not writing any books, Mark. I can tell you that right now.
You might want to try that.
Well, I'll try reading. I'm actually mad. The day that you called me or messaged me and we worked all this out, I went on Amazon and ordered your book, but it's getting delivered today. I wanted to have it here, but my mail doesn't come till like 2 p.m. So, but I ordered the Mark Rogers book. You should order the Mark Rogers book too. But Mark, before we do the picks, what is the book? What made you want to write the book? Is this your first book? More for the South Carolina fans that are watching, is it a picture book?
The South Carolina fans are unfortunately not eligible to read this book. A lot of lists, a lot of rankings, a lot of scenarios that have to be worked through. So I don't know if they can hang with it.
So what is the book?
All right. So what we've got here, Uncle Lou, and I appreciate you having me on, providing the link, doing all those good things. And thank you for ordering it. I hope I get a good review out of you, but
you will.
Certainly tell the truth.
Yeah.
I know you will. So I was the guy in high school who wrote a paper on a 16-team playoff in 1984, way before, this is the way college football should do it. They should have a 16-team playoff and do it like this. So I have always thought about, okay, how could this be done better? Why the powers that be do it the way they do? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that selection. A lot of people watching us right now can't imagine that there was a day and time when we'd watch all the big New Year's Bowl games and then have to wait until the next morning when the paper came out. We had an idea who might be number one the next day and the national champion, but we didn't truly know until we got the paper the next day. So I consider, Lou, the 1990s to be the most formative and impactful decade in terms of determining a championship and getting us to where we are now, because when you think about it, it was just simply the coaches poll and the AP poll at the start of the decade. Then we had the Bowl Coalition come in and do its best to say, okay, we are definitely pitting number one and number two because bowl officials just wanted the best TV show. So they'd go grab number 13 Notre Dame to play number one Alabama, for example, just as a odd analogy there. And then we got to the BCS. That was the forerunner of the 14 playoff, the 12 team, and maybe a 14 or 16 at some point. So I go through each year of the 1990s, and I basically set the stage of the season. Who were the major players, who was expected to compete. I lay that out, go through the rankings preseason, and then I run through the season. What happened? Storylines, major games, major key moments, all those things. And then I set us up for the postseason. Why were those teams selected for those games? What happened in the postseason? How do we evaluate that performance? And then what were the final rankings? And then was it a valid vote? Was it credible? Who got left out? Who got screwed? And then look at the aftermath of the season to say, all right, this is what ended a dynasty, or this is what started a dynasty, or look, this is the dawning of this era, or this was the impact of this season, and this is the aftermath. And then the most fun part, because this isn't just a history book. I didn't want to write a history book and people say, yeah, I'm not really into history and that happened 30 years ago, is I take all these seasons and I plug them into the BCS era. I plug them into the 4-team playoff era, the 12-team, and even project toward the 14-team that is being proposed now. And that was a lot of fun. And that was the most difficult part of this, was not the writing necessarily, because I'm not a great writer. I'm not going to sell myself as some kind of amazing writer, but I'm a better writer probably than a broadcaster. So that was the easier part than running through all the scenarios and making sure I was being consistent with my process. But this was a lot of fun to do.
So how long did this take from like idea to now it's for sale? Because the research part of it, well, you've been doing the research part of it your whole life. Even before you knew you were going to eventually write a book, you just watching college football. But how long was the process here?
Yeah, so I kind of went midway in regards to, you can hire a publisher and you're going to spend, I don't know, I've heard $75,000, $80,000 to get a publisher and have them do everything for you. Or you can, like, everything's online, you can dig it out. I kind of went in the middle, had somebody kind of hold my hand, like a self-publishing school. And I got to tell you, Uncle Lou, the formatting of the book and all these things, the marketing ideas and all this stuff, and forming a cover and all that was a lot more complicated. And there's so much more that is involved in this that I never thought of in writing the book. It's the difficult part. When I say I wrote a book, people are like, oh, you wrote a book, like that's some daunting task. Well, it can be, but that wasn't the hard part of it. It was all the other portions of it. So I wrote it fairly quickly in a few months, but then I had some It was going to be out a couple of years ago, but this worked out because this is at the time that the 12 team came out and the 14 team. And I was going to write this and had written it before that and thought, wow, it's nice that a few things happened in life that backed me up a couple of years before I could put this together and release it.
It sounds like, for me, like the part of YouTube that people see me do, that's the easy part. It's everything else. Like how I have no idea what it took for you to get this book published and go. Like I can imagine you sitting at a desk and writing. Like yeah, I can see that. But it's all the other stuff. I feel like YouTube's that way, kind of like
exactly
like what you see me doing now or uploading a video. Like that's easy, and I love doing that. It's everything else I hate. The sort of back end stuff. It's just it can be a pain in the ass.
You nailed
a lot
it.
of times. Yeah. Well, this is exciting. So what year of the BCS did they 100% get it right? And what year did they 100% get it wrong? And I realize there really is no 100%. This is an opinion-based question, but when you go through the 90s, what's like the most drastic year where you're like, yeah, okay, this is ridiculous. How did this happen?
Yeah, well, I will say this, that I have renamed all the national champions.
Yeah.
Whether anybody thinks that's valid or not, I have people call me and think it's like blasphemous to challenge the AP writers. And I got to say this real quick, Lou. For 7 years, I worked in the SEC. I went to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama games every week. I was a sports director at CBS in Mississippi. And those people are doing their jobs. Now, with the internet, this is in the late 90s. So with the internet, it's a little bit different now. Those guys are so locked into their jobs. If you're the Ole Miss beat writer, you don't know what's going on in the Big Ten.
Right.
You're locked on. You have to know if the left guard's taking a false step and that's why they benched him. Or, you need to know ridiculous stuff about the team. And I quickly found out in following these guys, plus going to games myself, if you're going to a 3:30 game in the afternoon, you're leaving before noon. You're at the game. You're at a 3.5-hour game. You're going to the locker room. You're going to the coach's press conference after the game. You're coming back. You're editing tape. I would know nothing about what was going on in college football other than I went to the Alabama LSU game. I'm an expert on that, but I know nothing else. So I quickly found out. I talked to these AP writers, and they were phenomenal at what they did, but you don't know anything else about college football. You have no idea what's going on with other teams. So that started me questioning, okay, what about these votes? The Heisman is a perfect example. It's been proven that there's a complete regional bias to it. So I've always questioned the voting. And again, I've gone through all the national championship seasons to say, let's review what really happened here. And is this a credible championship? Now, I've not been taking away championships from teams because I think what's been earned has been earned. But I think that there have always been teams. Now, of course, in the 10-year 14 playoff, I'm not taking away championships definitely there or giving championships to other teams. But there's certainly arguments for other teams having an opportunity to get into the playoffs. But to your question, in the 1990s, I just think, unfortunately, these bowl games were treated in writers, but also in the fans' minds as playoff games. To me, they're not playoff games. They're just an additional data point. And so in 1983, I'm going to go outside the 1990s and say 1983, Miami loses to Florida by 25 points at one point in the season. And they beat Nebraska in that historic Orange Bowl game with the 2-point conversion that didn't work. And Miami elevates from number 5 to number 1. Okay. Well, Nebraska went through an entire season and they only lost one game, but the head-to-head, I'm totally fine with that. If that was in a vacuum, Miami's your national champion. However, there's an Auburn team over here that went 11-1 as well, with a much tougher schedule than Miami. They went through a brutal schedule. I don't know what Auburn was thinking back then, but they were playing like top 10 teams outside the SEC, and they pull off this 11-1 season. Well, what's their argument? They have an argument, great schedule, best schedule in the country, same record as Miami. Okay, well, if you say, and there are tons of services out there that actually give Auburn a 1983 national championship.
Yeah.
The thing is that their one loss was to Texas. Okay, Texas was 11-1. They lost to Georgia, as you well know, in the Sugar Bowl that year, or in the Cotton Bowl that year, by 1 point on a muffed punt with about 4 minutes left. So you can't leave Texas out. So I just introduce a lot of, I don't make decisions like Nebraska and Michigan split in 1997. Oh, Michigan was definitely the best team. You'll find this funny, and you live it every day. I did a show during the offseason. Michigan, Nebraska, 1997. Who was the better team? Who had the better resume? All those things. And college football fans get on with me in the chat and the calls and everything and claim all the time, I'm not biased.
Yeah.
Couldn't find one Michigan fan who gave Nebraska any chance of winning that game. Oh, we would have slaughtered. Couldn't find one Nebraska fan who gave Michigan any credit for having any chance to win that game. It's ridiculous.
What about maybe you can make my day here, but well, two parts kind of. I'm going to ask you about 1990, but before I do, what do you, in the internet era, if they declared a split national champion, people would go, it would blow the internet up. So I'm glad we don't have that anymore. But who was the national champion in 1990, and why was it not Georgia Tech? Of course, can't be Georgia Tech. Come on.
Yeah, it can't be Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech's not supposed to win national championship.
That was the fifth down year for people watching it weren't alive or don't remember. There was an infamous referee mistake that gave Colorado a fifth down, which they then scored on. Was that against Nebraska? Who was that against?
That was against Missouri.
And at the end of the year, we had whatever it was. The AP gave one and the coaches gave one, whatever it happened to be. There was a split national title between Colorado and Georgia Tech. So what do you make of that year?
You know what's unfortunate about that situation, Uncle Lou? Well, that the ref screwed up. That's the unfortunate thing. But they screwed up in such a way that we can't say, oh, well, they screwed up, and therefore this would have happened instead of that. No, they screwed up on an earlier down. So Colorado responded to what they saw as being an earlier down, a second down instead of a third down. So they spiked the ball. They wouldn't have spiked the ball and wasted a down had the officials been accurate. So there is that. But yeah, when do you see a national champion who lost a game, tied a game, would have lost another game that they were given a fifth down, and on top of that, in the Orange Bowl against Notre Dame, Rocket Ismail races for a game-winning touchdown with about 50 seconds left in the game. And in Colorado's offense, we're talking wishbone kind of offense, that their chances of passing the ball down the field in the last 50 seconds pretty minimal. That Rocket Ismail runs for this, and there's this phantom clip call that is really a questionable, that dude's not catching Rocket Ismail kind of call like that. This team almost basically lost 3 games and tied one, and they are the national champion. Yes, Georgia Tech is the national champion. Now, I will say Miami was probably the better. This is one of these situations. Miami, by all indications of anybody who really has a functional brain and watches football, it's probably the best team, but they lost 2 games. So they don't deserve it. They didn't earn it. They were probably the best team, but Georgia Tech, you're national champion.
Yeah. One other year, 1998. Is there any way I can needle Tennessee fans that they shouldn't have been national champions in 98? Or am I just out of luck?
You can. Man, they had a lot going on their side. Great story here. I was sitting in the press box of the Georgia Dome, 1998, watching Tennessee and Mississippi State. And Mississippi State, huge underdogs, winning by 4 points in the fourth quarter against Tennessee. And anyway, I won't go into the drama of trying to get a live shot together outside the Georgia Dome in the massive humanity that was out there. But Tennessee got a questionable pass interference call against Syracuse at the Carrier Dome early in the season. That gifted a win. Otherwise, fourth down, they're done. That was a fourth down play. And of course, the infamous Clint Sterner fumble where nobody touched him. He can't, he can't pivot and hand the ball off with like a minute left in the game. Yeah, Tennessee, boy, then they match up against a third-string quarterback that nobody's ever heard of since, and unfortunately, actually passed away this last offseason in the BCS championship game, the first ever. Yeah, Tennessee got every conceivable break that season.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like Tennessee was not the best team in 1998. That's pretty much just cut and dry there, which of course is great news. One other thing I want to ask you about here, and it doesn't really have to do with anything that we've talked about, but since I have you on, this is something that I've been bothering me some. I don't really know how to come at this, but so like the never-ending debate between like most deserving versus best team and everything that goes into that, and now the 12-team playoff and how many teams from each conference should get in, and like, well, what if the fifth best team from this league is better than the Big 12 champion or whatever. My thing is, I know that the reason they're expanding the playoffs is financial. That's their only motivation, and I get that. But one of the benefits of expanding it is you do get more teams in, so maybe you have a better understanding when it's all over. Okay, this team actually did deserve to win it because they beat 4 top 10 teams in the playoffs and won the national title. But my thing is this. So you take any other sports league, professional or otherwise, in any given year in the NFL, the 9th best team in the NFC might be better than the 7th best team in the AFC. Who cares? No, I've never heard anyone say the Vikings shouldn't be in the playoffs as a wild card in the NFC because the Jaguars are better. It just so happens the Jaguar, like, why do we do that with college football? Is it because for 100 years we've just been in our head saying these are the teams that deserve to be the best, and it doesn't matter what their records were and in a certain conference, and this conference is better than that conference? Why is it such a big deal in college football? And I'm an SEC guy. I think the SEC is the best conference. If you finish 4th or 5th in the SEC, what valid argument do you have that you should be in over the winner of the Big 12? And I don't know that obviously won't happen. The winner of the Big 12 is going to get in, but like BYU and Iowa State, for example, one of them, it might be a 13-0 versus 12-1 deal. You're going to have people saying that the 12-1 team shouldn't get in and some 9-3 Alabama should get in or whatever. Why do we apply that sort of mindset to college football? But I've never heard a single soul say, well, the 9th best team in the American League in baseball is actually better than the 7th best league in the team in the National League. So why don't we just put the 9th place American League team in over the 7th place? Well, no, because they didn't qualify in the league that they're in. That's why. Why is it? What is it about college football? I know, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the fact that for 100 years, there's been no objective way to seed teams. And, well, for a long time, there was no postseason of not a tournament style, not an actual playoff. Is that what it is? It's just 100 years of subjectiveness where we're just used to saying, well, this team and this team and this team and this team are the 4 best teams. Doesn't matter what league they're in. Doesn't matter this. Doesn't matter that. And now that we're in a playoff that has automatic berths and this team gets in and that team gets in, to me, this is kind of the best of both worlds. You win your conference, you're in. Doesn't matter what anybody thinks of you. You're in. Solves the Florida State problem from last year, whatever. You win your conference, you're in. And you still have some people that get to sit around and go, well, this team didn't win their conference, but they're pretty good. Let's put them in. Well, just your thoughts on all of that.
Well, I think we align on this one for sure. I think that college football fans have taken their lead from the leadership or the authorities in the sport, which is
lack of leadership is more like it, really.
Yes, that's been a contradiction. There's been somebody that's had power in the sport, but yeah, they've just kind of done what they wanted, and it's been highly subjective for years and years and years, and it's slowly become more and more objective. But we've got a committee, of course. So I do think, I've used that same exact example of the professional sports leagues, and nobody ever challenging the process that's in place to determine a champion. Now, of course, that process is completely objective. We don't have anybody sizing it up or making a call like a committee. It's just simply, hey, you watch the final weekend of the NFL season and all the playoff scenarios, and well, if they beat them or they lose to them, that's going to happen, and that's what it is. So there's nothing to argue, as opposed to there's this objective measure of all these results and standings versus this subjective, okay, well, they never got to play them, and so we can only guess, and that sort of thing. It's like 2019 comes to mind, Lou, where we had Ohio State, Clemson, LSU all undefeated. They appeared to be the three best teams in the country. Then you had this fourth spot, and people asked me when the selection committee after championship weekend selected, it's Oklahoma. They're the obvious choice from a reasonable standpoint of earning it. Conference champion, only one loss. They were the only team that filled that spot. People ask me, did the committee get it right? Yes, they determined, they did their job. That was the team that earned it, obviously. However, I think Alabama's a better team than Oklahoma. They played LSU to a 5-point game. They lost a fluke game to Auburn with pick sixes all over the place. And I think they're the better team. I don't think LSU's going to lead Alabama by 7 touchdowns at halftime, like they did against Oklahoma. But I love the tension, like you just said, between there being room for some subjectivity to nuance it, but you have to honor the results and the teams that earned it in their league.
Yeah. I enjoy the argumentative side of college football. Obviously, I've built my channel on arguing over everything under the sun when it comes to college football. So I actually like that there is some subjective input into what happens at the end of a college football season. But I also think, like I don't think Florida State would have done well in the playoffs last year, but that, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, they should have been in, the fact that, well, they'd probably lose. Well, that doesn't matter. Someone's going to lose. It's just, does everybody that loses in the first round shouldn't have been in? I mean, somebody has to lose the first round game. Them losing isn't proof that they shouldn't have been in. 2 teams lose every year in the first round. So, and people that do what we do, like subjectivity and the argumentative nature of college football is a big boost to like what we do, because the arguments are never ending. I mean, here we are 30 years later, 40 years later, and you can write a book about who should have won the national title in 1994, and like it matters to people. People will still argue about it 30, 40 years later. So I'm okay with that.
Lou, don't you love what's going on with SMU right now? And it sounds like you're rooting for chaos, just like I am. Clemson, Miami, SMU, all playing in different silos, will never play each other this season. This is what's become ridiculous. And I know you've addressed this with these leagues going out to 16, 17, 18 teams. You're not playing 8, 9 teams in your league. Therefore, it only makes sense that if you know anything about math, that we're going to run into these scenarios where, there's a 3-way tie and none of these teams played each other. What's fascinating about SMU is they could go undefeated. It's one thing, 3 teams are tied at 6-2 and one gets screwed and left out. Well, they had room to better their record. They had the opportunity. I still have some empathy there, but they got left out. They had 2 other games they could have won. But when you're 8-0 and you get left out, and just for anybody that's not following, Miami, Clemson, SMU, all undefeated, don't play each other. They could tie for the first place standing in the conference, never play each other. And SMU, as it's trending, will have the worst win percentage by opponents in the conference. So they get left out. So they're at 11-1. They've got no losses in the conference, and they lost to BYU by 3 points. Yeah. And I'm only hoping BYU runs the table and goes 13-0. So this is the best loss imaginable. And maybe SMU gets left out of the playoff and goes ACC. What else were we supposed to do? That would be a phenomenal situation.
Well, yeah, and I mean, in the Big Ten, and maybe after today this won't matter, but Oregon, Indiana, Penn State could all be 12-0. Now, in that case, I think all three would get into the playoffs, but who gets left out? You know, the weird tiebreaker. Georgia can run the table, which would include wins over a top 20 Ole Miss team and a top 10 Tennessee team, and not make the SEC title game at 11-1. You know, if it would depend on what happens with LSU, Bama, and Texas A&M. You know, so there's just a lot of weird. I've said this when they expanded this thing, the conferences. I mean, to these super conferences. We're going right back to divisions. It's just a matter of time because this isn't going to work. This isn't sustainable. You're going to have too many of these scenarios that are going to come up that are going to come down to coin flip tiebreakers or a margin of victory over common opponents. Like the Big Ten, I think they did away with it, but initially had this thing where Oregon could have got left out because they only beat Ohio State by 1. And what if Penn State and Indiana both beat them by 3? Like, then they go to margin of victory. I think they did away with that. But, like, there's too many teams, and it's just a matter of time. And we may get it in the first year, this year, where you've got multiple conferences with 3 and 4 teams tied with the same record at the end, and you got you've read the tiebreaker rules for these conferences. It's like reading a legal document. I don't even know what I'm looking at. Once you get past, like, the second tiebreaker, I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. I'm just going to have to take their word for it when they tell me these are the 2 teams that are getting in. Okay, I believe you. Because I don't understand what I'm looking at. All right, Mark, we got to make some picks today.
At some point, just say flip a coin.
Yeah, we got to make some picks now. I won't keep you much longer. I got to get out of here too. So we'll just hit like a couple of the bigger games today. Now, most people are aware, if they're not, they should be, that Mark, you are an Ohio State man. But unlike the people you were mentioning,
keep that under wraps.
Yeah, we keep it under wraps, and I'm not a Georgia fan.
A long time ago, we did.
Yeah. Unlike the people you were talking about earlier, you do have the ability to keep your own biases out of what you do and say. So Ohio State on the road at Penn State. Ohio State favored by 3. Offensive line issues. Can't run the ball. Penn State loses this game every time. Drew Aller, less than 100%, but looks like he's going to play. What happens here?
Well, I actually crashed into this live stream listening to you tell me how well I picked these games, which pretty well over the course of time, but I'm having my worst season this year out of going back to 1982. Okay. Penn State's the better football team right this second. They're not the more talented football team, but they're playing better football, but they're extremely limited on offense. They've been very pedestrian. Look at the Illinois game, the Wisconsin game, and obviously this Drew Aller situation with Bo Prabula. And them forcing Ohio State to prepare for 2 quarterbacks, although the argument is Ohio State would have had to do the same anyway because Prabula is a guy that they give packages to anyway. I'm going to believe that Ohio State's going to do something close to what they did against Notre Dame last year in that the offense looked ugly most of the time. The offensive line issues are well documented, especially at left tackle, but they pull off about 4 or 5 big offensive plays.
Yeah.
And they win this game 24-20.
Yeah, it does seem like, well, if it comes down to explosive plays, Ohio State has the huge advantage, for sure. And real quick, 20-second answer, because I get sick of arguing with people about the fire Ryan Day thing, which I think is insane. But worst case scenario, if the worst case scenario were to happen, they lose today, they lose to Indiana, they don't make the Big Ten championship game, they don't make the playoffs. They're 9-3. Would Ryan Day be the coach at Ohio State next year?
I will say 60-40 no. I would seriously think about firing him.
Yeah, okay. Duke on the road at Miami. Miami's favored by 3 touchdowns coming off the win against Florida State last week. This is a noon game. There'll be 9 people in attendance when this thing kicks off. Can Duke keep it close?
Man, look at last week. They were a 12-point dog against SMU, and they were lining up for the game-winning field goal. I think they're undervalued. I know Miami has so much explosive talent, but look at these games. At some point, it becomes a trend playing against the 40th best teams in the country, Virginia Tech, Cal, fill in the blank, and playing as close as they have. Now, Florida State's an outlier. They're such a train wreck that I like Duke in the 20.5 points. I'm not going to pick the upset here, but at this point in the season, far more double-digit upsets this year than last year.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
SMU 6 turnovers last week, and Duke still couldn't win. So we'll see what happens today. 2-1 here. Arkansas at home and South Carolina at home against ranked teams. Ole Miss at Arky, Texas A&M at South Carolina. Do either of the favorites lose?
Yeah, it seems like Texas A&M would be primed for a letdown. And South Carolina, outside of the Ole Miss effort, man, I'm impressed with the LSU game, the Alabama game. I know those teams aren't great teams, but South Carolina somehow has pieced something together. But they're limited at quarterback. I think Texas A&M is going to go in there. They're so strong on defense, and their running game so strong with the two backs that I think that they're going to be able to cover the 3, but a really good football game. And I like Arkansas with the points against Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss, it's kind of that explosive offense, but man, it's been pretty impressive what Arkansas has done this year, playing close with Texas A&M, beating Tennessee, had a almost 700-yard effort for a third time, over 600 yards in total offense last week against Mississippi State. So I like the points. Arkansas seems to do that at home on a regular basis.
Yeah, I've mentioned this a bunch of times this season. Arkansas, 650 yards against Oklahoma State and lost. There can't be but a handful of times that's ever happened in the history of college football, that amount of yards resulting in a loss. So Arkansas, a strange team this year, Pittman and Petrino there. All right, the cocktail party. Georgia, Florida, in Jacksonville. Georgia's a big favorite, about 14.5 or 15, depending on where you look. The last 3 games, Georgia won by an average of about 23, 24 points. What happens in that one?
Florida with some key losses on both sides of the ball with Wilson and Marshall, offense and defense. Georgia rolls. It's a decent game. Florida hangs in there. I got to give my hat, some tip of the cap to Billy Napier on some level that they've at least, not given up. And but I got to think Georgia wins this game by 3 scores.
I like that. That sounds good. Just a couple more. Kansas State, my pick in the preseason to win the Big 12. I know it doesn't look that way right now, but because they still have a chance, I'm riding with that. I think they play Iowa State in a couple of weeks, so I need them to beat Iowa State to earn a rematch with BYU. What do you think? Who ends up coming out of? I heard you earlier say you're kind of pulling for BYU to upset or the apple cart or whatever with an undefeated season. But what do you think ends up happening in the Big 12?
Like you, I like to stay with my picks until they're dead. I pick Kansas State to win the Big 12 championship game over Iowa State in the preseason, so I'm going to stay with that. I have a lot of faith and trust in Chris Kleiman. Avery Johnson gets better and better and better with more experience. I like Kansas State, love the program. I think, if given an opportunity, I will take them in a conference championship game. And to close that out.
All right, one-word answer on this one. Florida State doubles their win total today at home against North Carolina, yes or no?
No.
I like it. Clemson is a 10-point favorite. Tennessee is a 17.5-point favorite. Thoughts on those two?
Yeah, boy, I'm one that when push comes to shove, I love to take the points. But man, Kentucky's just, wow, they're
circling
bad.
The drain.
I didn't expect this.
Yeah.
Tennessee, though, has not been the offensive machine that they were supposed to be. The defense is better than people recognize. I have taken personally Tennessee to cover against Kentucky. And what was the other game that you threw at me?
Clemson at home against Louisville. Scoring fest probably in this one. The over-under 62.5, and Clemson's a 10-point favorite.
Yeah, finally, maybe Clemson plays somebody this week. The next 3 weeks, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt. We finally get to see something out of Clemson because they played a horrendous schedule after they got stomped by Georgia. I'm going to believe in the Clemson defense because if you really look into those numbers and those points given up, NC State, Virginia, meaningless garbage points. Clemson's got a defense. Louisville does not. I like Clemson to cover.
All right. I hope y'all were listening because those are some winners there from Mr. Mark Rogers. Again, check out his book. There's an Amazon link in the description of the video. I've posted it in the comments a couple of times. Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset. Mark, congratulations on the book, man. I'm happy for you. I can't wait to get it in and read it. And thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Lou. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, I'm going to break your cover, going to blow your cover and tell people this guy does actually know ball. He does.
The cat's out of the bag. All right, Mark, enjoy your college football Saturday, and good luck to Ohio State today.
Thanks, Uncle Lou.
All right, buddy.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. There you go, Mark Rogers, everybody. Kind enough to come on this morning for the celebrity guest picker. He's probably the closest to an actual celebrity that we've ever had on for a celebrity guest picker. So, yeah, shout out to Mark Rogers for coming on. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Hendrick, thank you for the super chat. He says, just here to hashtag pay Lou. Appreciate that, Hendrick. All right, it is time to do the rigged wheel and then get things wrapped up. Just as a reminder, I will be back on at 12. We're going to live stream and hang out during all the noon games, which, of course, Ohio State and Penn State is the big one. So if you're going to be watching these games at noon, and if you're a college football fan, you're going to be watching, come on back to the channel at noon and hang out. We have a really good time during these streams. We talk about the games. We argue back and forth. We react. We have a really good time. So come back and hang out with us at noon for all the noon games. And then for the 3:30 games, I will be over on Patreon. So a lot of you are signed up over there already. Big shout out to y'all. That stream today will be at 3:30 as voted on by the people over on the Patreon page. So we, of course, have the Georgia-Florida game, Michigan-Oregon, several big games on at 3:30 as well. We'll be live streaming that over on the Patreon page. The link to the Patreon is in the description of the video if you'd like to check it out. Like I said, we have a really good time. But it is time to get to the rigged wheel, and that's what we're going to do right now. This is absolute insanity right here. But yesterday on the morning show, I just picked these 8 or 9 games that I like. Tennessee minus the points, Oregon minus the points, Penn State plus the points. You get the idea. And I literally just spun the wheel, and whatever the wheel landed on, I made a bet on that. That's what I made a bet on. I'm an absolute degenerate. I'm a 5-star dummy, which isn't breaking news, or at least shouldn't be breaking news to the majority of you here. I'm an absolute dummy.
5-star dummy.
If I had any sense at all, which I don't, I would have waited until Mark Rogers came on today before I made those picks. But nevertheless, I went ahead and did it. But we have to delete all these because it is time to add y'all's names to the rigged wheel. So again, anybody that sent in a Cash App or a PayPal will be getting those names added right now. I'm going to start with the Cash App. Here we go. Trap has sent in a Cash App. Thank you, buddy. David A. Thank you, sir. Appreciate y'all helping to support the show this morning. Anthony Swift. I feel like Anthony Swift is due on one of these. And, of course, our good buddy Jackpot. He's one of the first ones every single Saturday morning to send in and get his name on the wheel. So shout out to you, Jackpot, a.k.a. Rockabilly. Yeah. All right, on to the PayPal. Let's see what we have here. Good luck to everybody, by the way, that helped support the show this morning. All right. Whatever name the wheel picks, of course, you will get to pick any game you want today against the spread. And if you get it right, I will send you back double your money. Colby, shout out to you, buddy. Let's get Colby on there. There's Colby. Jay Shippus, which some of you may know as Jay Shipes. Of course, it's pronounced Shippus. Shout out to Jay Shippus. Per normal. All right, good luck to everybody. Unfortunately, there can be only one winner. It is unfortunate, but it's true. There can be only one. All right, we need a, let's see, who can we get to give us the number today? How about Charles B? Charles B, give me a number between 3 and 5. Let's see how many times we're going to spin that wheel. Five. Going for the absolute most. The literal definition of doing the most. You're doing the most, Charles. All right, we're going to spin the wheel 5 times. The 5th name is the winner. You'll get to pick any game you want against the spread. If you get it right, I will send you back twice your money. Either if you get it wrong, I'll send you your money back. So it's basically just a free bet. Trap was name number 1. Here comes spin number 2. Dang. Trap again. Spin number 3. We're looking for the 5th name today. Anthony S. All right, spin number 4. Appreciate everybody tuning in this morning for the kickoff show. I have a good time on these Saturday morning shows with y'all every week. Ooh, that's a close one there. Trap again. So Trap has hit 3 out of 4. But this is the only spin that matters. Here we go. Good luck to everybody, and thank you again for helping to support the show and the channel this morning. Jay Shippus. Jay Shippus. Shout out Jay Shippus. Let's see what he likes Kentucky plus the points. So Jay Shippus, not a believer when it comes to our buddies, the Voltards. Let's get this written down here. Jay Shippus has Kentucky plus the points. Let me see what the most up-to-date number is on that. All right. Sports. Football. Foosball. Tennessee and Kentucky, where are you at? Tennessee and Kentucky. Did I pass it already? Nope, there it is. 17.5 points Jay Shippus has. Plus 17.5 points for our buddy Jay Shippus. Good luck. Good luck, Jay Shippus. All right, here's the bets I have so far for today. Of course, I'll end up making a lot more over the course of the day. I guess I'll come back on around 11:45, about 15 minutes before the noon games kick off, and y'all can help me put in another couple of picks on the noon games, maybe. But here's the bets I have so far for today, so that if I get them wrong, you can troll me later. Tennessee minus 17. I bought it from 17.5 down to 17. South Carolina plus 3, and then I have a parlay, Arkansas plus 7.5, SMU minus 7, Penn State plus 3.5. Those are the bets I have so far for today. That way, if I lose them, you can troll me. Don't forget to check out PrizePicks. It's really easy. You pick more or less on whatever player's stats. Search bar, you just type in, let's see, what's Nico supposed to do today? Nico, I'm going to make a mistake. More or less than 206 yards. I would say more against this terrible Kentucky team. I would say more there. Dylan Sampson, another one that Tennessee fans won't shut up about. Dylan Sampson, more than 89.5 rushing yards. What do you think? Yes or no? I don't know. Check out prizepicks.com. No, it's really easy to use. You literally just pick more or less on player stats. You can win up to 100 times your money. Use the promo code Uncle Lou when you get signed up over there. That's one word, all uppercase letters without any spaces, Uncle Lou. Make any $5 play, and whether you win or lose, they're going to give you $50. It's literally free money. Check it out, prizepicks.com. You'll be glad you did. All right, everybody, I'm going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Shout out again to Mark Rogers. Check his book out. The Amazon link is in the description of the video. It's $9.99. I mean, come on. It's $9.99, and if you've got Amazon Prime, of course, you get free shipping. You can't beat it. Support Mark Rogers. Check out his book. I'm really disappointed mine didn't come in. Let's check again. I'm really disappointed mine didn't come in today. Let's see. Orders. Yeah, arriving today by 9 p.m. And my mail doesn't usually get here till after lunchtime. I'm really disappointed I didn't have the book in today. But there you go. I did order it. There it is right there. Package arriving today by 9 p.m. So check out the book from Mark Rogers. He's a good guy. He was nice enough to come on. He was here about 30 minutes with us this morning, so that was nice of him to do that. All right, everybody. Great games today. Great games today. I hope everybody has some good food to eat today, and I hope all of your teams win, unless you happen to be a Florida fan, in which case, unfortunately, you already know you got to tote the Giant L. Dogs on top over Florida today. Enjoy your Saturday, and I'll be back on at noon, and we'll hang out and watch all the noon games. Have a good morning.